everything you want to know about yourself and the world, you can find through your Akashic records. And
Sure.
that includes connecting with departed loved ones, whether they're animal or human, because you can call them into your records, connect with them there.
Welcome back to the Consciousness of the Way. I am your humble servant and Sifu, Taoist Master San Qing. And what a pleasant surprise today. I'm so always welcoming these great conversations with incredible beings of light and information. And this is an example of that, an Akashic master and a teacher of many things in relation to direct source information. I want to welcome to the podcast, Debbra Lupien. How are you, my dear friend?
I am fabulous. So happy to be here with you.
Well, yes, it's always, this is what we had this conversation before we got online. This is what excites both of us, is to commune with like-minded frequencies and have this oscillating dance. I like to call it the symbiosis of unification, where we're just feeling that reverberation, that effect that comes with the substance, the now moment. So I would love, because I mean, anyone that's witnessing this right now, I can feel your energy. It's amazing. I would love for you to just share a little bit about yourself and how you ended up here.
It's a long, tangled story, so I'll keep it short. I was building databases for a living. I had my own company, and I loved it. It was very satisfying until it wasn't. So in my 40s, I decided I'm going to get a horse now, because if I don't get one now, I will never get one again. And I'd had them as kids. I was living in Brooklyn, New York. So what do? I went on the internet and I found a horse across the other side of Pennsylvania and had her shipped to me, which was a whole long story in itself. But my horse was traumatized during this process, and I didn't know, because as a kid, you don't know all these things. And so now I have this horse who's trying to kill me. And people were telling me I had to put her down. I wasn't going to do that. She was my dream horse, even though she was acting like a devil. When I found out that she had her pelvis shoved forward, so now she's out of alignment, in incredible pain. And it took me a long time to find that out. I found a chiropractor that would come and work on my horse. I took an animal communication course. I did everything I could think of to help this girl. Finally, we got it sorted out. She became my perfect partner. And then a few years later, my husband and I were able to get a farm in Pennsylvania. So now we're on top of a mountain and live in that dream life. But somewhere along the way, I just got so into the horses and everything I had learned with her that I could no longer do databases. It just wasn't filling my soul. So slowly I was drawn into the metaphysical world. I had already started with the animal communication. I took a course in Akashic Records, and it's like, hello, baby, you've come home. It was just so wonderful. And I've not wanted to do anything else since. You know, when you find what feeds your soul and do it, there's such passion that you would do it for the rest of your life for free, because it's just so wonderful if you didn't have a mortgage to pay.
Right. Yeah, I mean, this seems to be the plight of most healers these days, is finding that middle road, that center point that satisfies their needs of survival and also contributing to humanity and raising that frequency.
Yeah. And what I found is, through studying about all the souls and what the gifts are and what planet they came from and their specialties, is that some of us are wired to be kind of hermits. So I was happy to be a hermit on my mountain. But then I understood and learned that if you're not sharing what you've learned, you're out of balance with who you are as a soul. So you've got to go do your research, learn all this stuff, but then go share it. And in the sharing, you get this energetic feedback loop that happens. And that's where you get that what feeds my soul energy.
Yeah, it's an interesting gnosis, an interesting point of self-realization when you liberate and reclaim that energy and you expand again.
Yeah, and use it consciously and purposefully too.
Yeah. I mean, it's like this very simplistic understanding from a Taoist perspective of yin and yang. Yin is the absorption of all colors. Yang is the emission of all colors. And your mission, Ethan Hunt, is to find the center point.
Yeah.
If you choose to.
It's all about that balance, which is so important now because things are so crazy out in the world.
Right, right. And I mean, you reference the planets, so I assume you integrate astrology into your Akashic readings to some degree.
No, actually, I don't. What I was referencing is that in the readings that I do, the soul introductions, I look at the schematic of the soul. And in the schematic lists your gift and your planet that you originated from if it wasn't Earth. And surprisingly, more than half of the planet are starseeds.
Interesting. That's so fascinating. You know, I started this journey about 36 years ago consciously myself. And only more recently, my relationship with spirits and entities and energies has been pretty much the forefront of my driving force and what I do. And so that was part of the mastery of being, a channel to my teacher, Lao Tzu. And, it is interesting because most recently, that type of seeing as, an alien in someone's auric field was not common 20 years ago for me. Yet in the last 5 years, it seems to be very common that I see these entities oscillating and absorbing and then reclaiming and then expanding within most auric fields that I come across, which is sort of like a sign of the times, perhaps.
Well, there's a lot of Palladians on the planet right now. So you're probably going to see them. And there's a couple of other groups, like the Arcturians are pretty prevalent. It used to be. They used to be very rare. So there's a shift in that respect as well.
And your galactic knowledge of understanding, would it come from clearly the mastery of your own access to the Akashic Records, which is the channeling?
Yeah, that's where all the information lies. And that's why I'm so in love with the Akashic Records, because everything you want to know about yourself and the world, you can find through your Akashic Records. And that includes connecting with departed loved ones, whether they're animal or human, because you can call them into your records, connect with them there. Which is so beautiful.
Now, what does that make? I've had quite a few Akashic Records reading. One of my dear friends, Lisa Wetzel, I don't know whether you ever heard of her.
Yes.
She's Akashic Records. She calls herself a consultant. I think she has a really potent access to information. What is it that makes the Akashic Records different to, say, source information, or is it the same, or is it the way that you guys are receiving the laid out information that makes it so validating for the seeker?
Well, it's not the way that we're doing it, because everybody can do it. So the way it's been shown to me, the internet is actually modeled after the Akashic Records and the creation. So we have creator is the hub. That's the knowledge base. And then we are all satellites off of creator, sending information back. They're being collected and stored in our individual Akashic Records. We each get our own archive that is equipped with a legion, not just a handful, but a legion, which they tell me is something like 20,000 to serve us because we're that complicated. So we've got this legion. We're feeding this information back. It's available to everybody, and we all benefit from it. But the trick is learning to access it. And there are many different ways of accessing the records. I recommend using some sort of a prayer, because you want to ask for access, even though they're yours and you have the right. You can't go poking around in somebody else's records without permission, other than on a very surface level. So all that data is there. It's your birthright. It changes your world in marvelous ways when you tap into it. What I personally experienced is the more time I spent connected, all of a sudden I started getting these flashes of past lives. I would get like this little vision, usually the death scene. And you wonder, why are they doing that? Well, in the death scene, they helped me connect the dots to a person in my present life or who I've known. And this was our connection in a past life. So it's not random. It's always very purposeful to help you to understand what your relationship was with that person. One time I got this vision. I'm eyeball to eyeball with a zygote. We were twins in the womb. That pregnancy did not come to fruition. So, we were miscarried, I suppose. But I had met that person in this life who was a friend of mine. And it totally explained the reason we had been magnetically drawn together, because we never got to have that life together.
Wow. And so what is the self-evident evidence that makes it so potent? So when you're laying this stuff out, and say, for example, you're telling someone, hey, look, they're a Palladian, they're an, I'm not familiar with the terms, Arcturian, something that is sort of based within sort of a galactic perspective of reality, and they were not expecting that. How is that met generally, or are people looking for that when they come for a reading from you?
Well, people who are not starseeds generally don't come for readings because they don't believe in this stuff. Mm-hmm. So I've not had anybody come to me and be astonished or surprised that I tell them they're a starseed. Mm-hmm. And in fact, in my videos and talking to people, that's very open. You're going to learn about your planet of origination, because it's the characteristics you carry with you mm-hmm. are resonant from your planet of origination. Just like when you grow up in a family and you pick up certain characteristics, it's imprinted on you. So it's really important and helpful to understand, the reason I do these things or feel this way has to do with that connection. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Well, of course. I mean, that's the substance that we operate in.
Yeah, like for myself, I was very emotionally withdrawn all of my life, less affect than you would expect, although I was inside very emotional. And I always thought there was something wrong with me. So I'm thinking I'm a defective person all my life. I get to the Akashic Records. I find out my planet is Alpha Centauri. That's a very industrialized society. There's not a lot of emotion. They go, they do their things, very, ritualized. Okay, now I get it. But since I've been incarnating on Earth, I've been working on filling in that gap. And the Akashic Records closed that circuit for me, because I used to not really care much about people. Now I love people, because they did something to me. One day I felt my heart chakra just boom, expand. And it's like through the angels and the work in the records, all of that love comes pouring through.
Wow.
I don't have a choice anymore.
Yeah. No, I mean, it is. It's one of those moments of self-realization that it will happen regardless. I mean, most recently, I was I have a friend of mine that we like to explore certain places, and we'll start just a journey, and he'll be like, all right, well, let's have Lao Tzu take us here. And then he'll be like, okay, well, what's this? And I think recently he wanted to go over the crash of Roswell. And I was like, okay, well, you're obsessed with this stuff. I find it interesting because I wouldn't even think twice about wanting to know about this stuff. And so the first thing Lao Tzu, my teacher that I channeled, he said that was fake. And then he's like, whoa, what are you talking about? Well, it was fabricated to the time period to show evidence of something that they cannot harness. And the actual alternative energies, or what you would perceive as other extraterrestrials, have technology that makes anything that you could work out in your wildest imagination look like garbage. So the idea that a flying saucer was created or crashed into planet Earth back in the 40s also reflects on the material that was being generated to build vehicles within that time period. And he goes, oh, that makes sense. I'm like, so, that's okay. But I mean, this, as you would call it, multi-dimensional galactic presence of these frequencies that are transmuted into actual substantive, like entity spirits, actual different life force from different planets. Every planet has a different life force. Yet what was really curious for me was what he said was the interaction, most, if not most or all of the aliens that he was familiar with, that he showed my friend, were looking for that superpower that humans have, which is empathy. And that was something that was not acquired with these other life force from other planets. And so their curiosity to continue to return to Earth. And he goes, well, are they here? Have they made it? Are they in within, society? Are they on planet Earth? I'm like, their ability to transmute is like the T-1000 from Terminator, if you've ever seen that movie, where he's a metal man that morphs into anything at will. This is the ability and the technology of these aliens, that they can do that. And so, well, have they reproduced? I'm like, well, the reproduction part is interesting. They can commandeer someone's attention, intention, move into their physical body, experience all the things that they desire, yet they can't acquire that secret source of empathy. And so when they do that and they actually embody a human, what happens is when they mate with another human, you acquire this specific type. And he's like, well, what is that? Serial killers, psychopaths, people that are in lack of empathy. They're trying to manufacture this superpower human beings have, and they can't acquire it. And even though they attempt to commandeer a physical body, thinking that they can transmute their essence and their seed into a union that would create a variable, a hybrid of themselves on planet Earth, it still is dysfunctional. Does any of this stuff make sense to you? Because it doesn't.
Yeah, I get a picture of the gears don't line up.
Right. It doesn't, for me, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But hey, look, this is what is going on constantly from the lens and perspective of inner working when it comes to these type of entities, meaning that they can transmute into anything at will. So all this other stuff and how it's fabricated would lead someone to this sort of notion that there's this other like life force that can never be met with planet Earth, which is, again, a distraction of fear that can be realized when people are conditioned and adapted to this frequency.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
So do those entities have souls? Do you know?
Well, what do you consider a soul? Soul is a fractal, in my opinion, within Taoism. We call it Shen. So Shen is the spirit body, which is a reflection, or what someone would call within a physics model, a fractal of God. Furthermore, the Shen for a Taoist is the primordial mother, which is the womb of all things. It's complete void. And from that, you create this material, which is yin and yang. And from that is the currency of this material state. And so your whole experience is dancing between these two potentials. And that is what forms your reality. Your attention is the most valuable commodity. And so when you're in this state or dimension or realm is when things are created through that lens of perfection, which is what we call energy potential, which is distortion. From a Buddhist monk perspective, one of my friends would call it dukkha, which is basically a variable of energy. This is energy. This is energy. This is energy. All of that is a variable of your attention, as you are a creator. So you are now developing this energy potential through your attention, most valuable potency. And that energy potential is created in the form of frequency, vibration, and ultimately resonance, which determines what this is. That resonance is met forming this. And now that resonance, if held, if you want to acquire something greater from this state, you must master that ability to resonate there, to hold it. And that will acquire through your own self-realization. Does that make sense?
It's a really complicated way of explaining something. I would simplify it, and to me, the soul is your consciousness. It's the animating force that is put into this skin suit.
Right.
That is us. And the reason I asked the question is this entity you're talking about that's looking for compassion. Compassion's part of our soul. If they don't have a soul, that might explain why they're having such a hard time obtaining compassion.
Well, it's just potential, right? So for a Taoist perspective, everything comes back down to frequency. That's why I was giving you sort of an ascended state. The transmutation of that is the narcissistic identity, egoic sort of like perception that crafts this reality. Because everyone, it's all about me. What is my purpose? What is my life purpose? And I always people ask me that all day long. Jeffrey, why am I here? And the question is, why not? This is a dance of symbiosis. It's nothing more than that. The primordial mother completes things and then creates things out instantaneously. This is going on all the time. Yet we're transmuted it into identity, personality, humanistic conditions that then, if met with a self-realization through the labyrinth of the finite mind, you create what you call human beingness. So if there's not a fundamental understanding of how the animation, which you would refer to as consciousness, is basically the life force of the primordial mother. This is the super glue. Without it, nothing materializes. Nothing is created in this state. So the super glue, which a physicist would call the entanglement, the 0-point energy, the scalar wave, whatever you want to call it, is still frequential. So your lens of it is now met with your need to identify as individual, as opposed to, as my teacher Lao Tzu would say, imagine you're like a grain of sand, asking the beach, what are we doing today? Fall back into the beach and be realized. Because if you cannot make sense of consciousness and you say, hey, it's consciousness and we're just souls expressing that, that's conceptual, which I hear all day long. Show me. I'm a Pepsi challenge guy from the 80s. I'll take the Pepsi challenge taste test with anyone. Show me what it is that you are talking about, speaking on as evidence, because with that, it's transitory and you cannot make a permanence or deliver belief to knowing with just words that are empty. They have to be met with the substance. Like our unification right now is substantive. You can feel the oscillating effects. When I speak, you get to charge up your body, which tells you, oh my goodness, whatever he's saying, it may not make sense to me 5 minutes ago, but I'm feeling the resonance. I'm feeling the visceral, kinesthetic, somatic response, which some of my dear friends would call psychokinesis, which is just a sensory perception. But I do appreciate you telling me I am long-winded. I hear it all the time. And I love that, because without it, it would not intrigue you enough to go, hang on a second, this abrasive energy is making me return to the beginning. What's inverted within me is rising up, and I'm having to identify with that. And it comes in the form of this guy. You're a catalyst to whatever it is that I am experiencing. And it's all because you're long-winded. You're too wordy. You're not giving me. No, it's a resonance that's evoking your ability to return to whole through that nurturing moment that is energy. Does that make sense?
Kind of. Yeah, it makes my head hurt a little bit. Did you ever watch Deep Space Nine?
Sorry?
Did you ever watch Deep Space Nine? It's one of the Star Trek shows.
No.
There is this species that they meet in the cosmos that are shapeshifters. And we see them in their primordial state as what looks like a big lake, or more of like a marsh, because it's not clear water. And out of that will walk this being. It takes a shape, it walks out. They have trouble looking like humans. That's a hard thing for them, but they can change their shape to look like anything.
Yeah.
So when I was having my conversations with Creator and understanding all of this stuff through the Akashic Records, I got this visual Creator standing there in this big robe at the edge of that primordial lake with a soup ladle. Dip it in, take a ladle of soup, put the imprint on it of the aspects of the soul, which we talked about earlier, the gift, the specialty, and the planet they're going to originate from, as well as the soul gender, because they get a gender too. The body can be a different gender, but the soul has a gender. Those never change. They always stay the same. That's your blueprint. From there, Creator sends you out to have these life experiences on all these different planets. Now we're here to expand your consciousness, find what feeds your soul, and have a really good time. Those are the 3 directives from Creator. So what you just went through is a very complicated way of explaining that same thing. I just like to put it down. I'm very pragmatic. Let's condense it so that we can identify the aspects very simply. Yeah. So that's what I see. And each lifetime is about expanding more, becoming more of an expert on yourself, which might sound a little selfish, but again, that's not, and I know you know this, that is all about once you get that for yourself, then you share it with others. Because you're always compelled to, unless you're a psychopath.
Right. Which is some hybrid of some alien that wants to reproduce on planet Earth, which I find interesting. But, you know, I mean, you come back to the template and the blueprint. I love that because, you know, the simplicity of reality is only met. Shape-shifting happens to be one sensory perception that I love to teach people. And how is that possible? It's evidence-based. I can walk up to anyone in the street, put them into a trance, and instantaneously turn into Justin Bieber. And within the next breath, they wake up and they will believe I'm Justin Bieber. This is a state of trance. This is a state of commandeering, having dominion over someone's perception of reality. And it's not met with evidence until you remove them from that trance and they return back to what they believe is their own sobered reality. Again, that moment is instantaneous. It does not require a worked up sort of mastery, which would be more infantile in relation to mesmerism or hypnosis or things of that sort of very archaic sort of infantile state. It's resonance. So when you're in that resonance, that's all that matters. So when you start going into blueprints, this is a path that is resonating with everyone that follows that belief system. Yet, is that the truth? It's an absolute truth for someone. It's not for you or me or John Smith down the street. It's for the individual experiencer. And it's only with experience. It doesn't, it means absolutely nothing to someone if they're not met with a belief system to a knowing that comes from experience.
Yeah, and the truth about the Akashic Records, they find you when you're ready. So when you're ready to learn about these aspects of the soul, it's there for you.
Right.
All of your lifetimes going back probably billions of years, it's all recorded there and you can access it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I like giving people 9 lives. We call it soul retrieval. That's an ancient mastered state that's been within Taoism hundreds of thousands of years. How do I know this? Because it's handed down from generation to generation and it's repeatable. You know, when you can show someone a physical healing, which is a mastered state of, and whenever I see that, whether it's flesh going back from gangrenous to pink in color in 40 minutes, bones fuse, tumors disappear, gashes seal before my very eyes. This is a normal day in the office for me over the last 36 years, which it sparked my desire because I was met with that resonance, which returned me to my immortal self realization of 1,000 lifetimes before this. And so I love regressing or returning at least 9 lives leading up to this very one right now, because it gives people substance to put the pieces together to help them return to who they are. And you cannot meet that with more of the experience. When I share something like that with someone, they're met with a projector screen that opens in their mind with their eyes open or closed. and they experience it viscerally as I explain it to them. And it can go randomly from a life to an object. You're still transmuting into these states that are variable. And I think that it's important that people are able to validate what they're experiencing, as opposed to just, you want to feel bliss, I can help you experience bliss just from a neurological state. How fast did it take to lament that, or to fester that into something that could turn into something permanent, is up to the individual. What does that mean? It means nothing or something. And that's where I always return back to the bellows effect, where you're expanding and contracting at the same time. You're all things and nothing at the same time. It doesn't get any harder or any easier than that. And your ability to move into that center point will determine what you're experiencing. And that will be merging of those potentials and having it realized. And that sensory perception that I talk about is your developed skill. Akashic Records, clairvoyance, mediumship, channeling, healing. All these things are abilities that everyone has. There's no exception to the rule. If you have a neurology, if you are a human being, you have this ability. What I would find a little problematic is when people talk about the foundation of the soul contract and the soul. That is not met with my experience as I travel through the dimensions past the veil of what you perceive as this reality.
Yeah.
It is a completely different construct than someone that loves to peddle OBEs, sleep paralysis, astral projection, which is a very popular subject that people talk about but have never acquired a mastery of it. And that's what we call Nigong, which is being able to access everything at once, which you would call the Akashic Records, meaning you're everywhere at once. Your energy is not diminished. It's actually as potent in any direction, at any moment, any place, person, or thing. And that will be met with the experience, and you'll see it. And I think that that's really important, your mastery and how you teach people through this lens of your experience. People meet that resonance, they go, oh man, I'm on it. Oh man, I can feel that I am a star seed. I can feel and know that what you're speaking of is the truth beyond the truth. And I get excited when I hear this explanation and understanding, because it doesn't, as you said, it's not met with anyone that is not desiring to find more about themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And soul contracts, that's a big misunderstood topic. It's an outdated modality that we don't need anymore. And so many people are trapped by this belief about soul contracts, which is unfortunate.
Well, karma is an interesting one. People love that. And it's like, listen, when I laid down the 9-point grid of the magic square that I use within star stepping, Taoist magic, Taoist alchemy, it alters the fabric of this reality. And it's only met by one thing. I bring the juice that returns everything to whole, which is a resonance. That's it. If I've ever witnessed any manifestation, magic, healing, I am in the present moment. That means I'm no place, no person, no thing. And I'm every place, every person, everything, which is the paradox of being head screwed. But that present moment is how you acquire that state. And that's when I witness miracles that people would consider miracles that are super normal. Most people come to me going, my grandma's in a coma. The doctors told her she's going to die in 24 hours. And I'm like, no, that's not going to happen. And they're like, wow, they say that about you. Next day, grandma wakes up, vitals are regulated. We're back to business as usual. The doctor goes, what the is going on? Because it's about just bringing that to a resonant state that she can remember. And furthermore, as you master your connection with the spirit world, you can instantly go and ask her, what is going on here? What are you doing? Well, I have a broken heart. I feel like my family doesn't love me anymore, and I have no purpose here on planet Earth. And furthermore, why should I invest more of my energy in this? I'm just going to let myself fade into my next reincarnation. And I'm like, they want you here. They're telling me, they're begging me for you to stay. I want to hear it. They need to come to my side. They need to commit to me. I'm like, okay. So I tell them to commit to her, and poof, It's like the rising of something greater. But this is a state that we all acquire. This is a mastery that we all have. And I think that, when people are limited by just a construct, where I've learned from Lisa, this Akashic record access is anything is possible, as I know to be true also.
Yes. I've had tea with the Dalai Lama on top of a mountain in his cabin in the Akashic Records.
You're right.
And then we levitated together.
Right.
It was amazing. I've flown as a bird. Everything is possible in the Akashic Records. You can travel, time travel, space travel. They take me to space a lot, which I find really fascinating. Something about going into the stars that helps us expand.
Yeah. I mean, we have this conversation right now. I am in the stars. I'm moving past asteroids. I'm blending and unifying with planets. And I feel it viscerally, kinesthetically, somatically through this tuning fork called the human body. And it's happening with my eyes open. It's a black backdrop, a void. I see you with a backdrop. And furthermore, now I see you, and being in a multifaceted reality that is, I'm everything, I'm experiencing the universe at the same time, supercharging and nourishing this cellular level at a subatomic level, my physical body, while experiencing that and having a conversation with you, which would seem impossible on a humanistic level for anybody to multitask, let alone a man.
Yeah, but that's
supposed to have the ability.
It's a big part of what we're here to do, is to get out of that box. Take creator out of the box and take ourselves out of the box and really examine what's possible. We don't know. We've not done it yet.
Right. It's also an interesting thing when people talk about, well, you're here to experience things, and then I would move you to the needle of, well, that sort of is an interesting perspective, yet you are creator. Once you have that self-realization, right? Maybe it's returning the crumbs from your Sherlock to your Watson as you acquire to return back to the origin and find the answer. There is this, when you are all things, when I experience healings, I'm all things. So that means that I'm not asking anything. I have imperium, dominion. I maestro this very moment with my attention and intention. And I'm a physical, energetic, and spiritual manifestation of divine word, will, light, love of the Tao, which then returns me to the void. So everything is complete black. And then the light of this material state is evident. And it does a dance and instantaneously infuses whatever is necessary and imbues it, imprints it, returns it back to whole. And that's how I witness healings. And then it transmutes into a physical state where you see tumors disappear, gaseous seal, all this kind of stuff, bones fuse. But from my viewpoint as the primordial mother, which is the animation behind all this, this is what happens. And so you're no place, no person, no thing. And that kind of goes first person, third person, no person. It's right there. And it only comes from experience, or it's just kind of diluted. It's like, okay, that's great. You could do that with ayahuasca or DMT or things of that nature, which I find problematic. And they're like, well, what do you mean? I need to get out to get in. Yeah, sure. That's great. But what you do is you get bitten by the spiritual dragon. And what happens is you're looking for something external that already resides within you. And so you're poking that. You're fluffing that.
Yeah.
And you're evoking something that you already have within you. Now find we call the fajun, the substance, the substance that is this animation, which is, the everything. It's visceral. Like when I'm talking, when I'm doing this, you feel this through your body, because this is the fabric that we're connected to. It's animated through this, and our ability to move this like this and have chills running through your physical body is this substance that we're talking about. And it's so powerful. And so once you attach to it, now you can alter things. Of course, the servitude and selflessness comes from high levels of ascension. Just because you play with energy doesn't make you enlightened. When you're able to perform these feats, they raise your consciousness without question. but you're still not returning to that primordial state of knowing, because the knowing doesn't require your participation. The knowing is the now moment. So when you do this, all of this stuff is evidence-based. It's in the material. Holy crap, I don't even understand what he's saying, but when I do this, I feel it through my body. It's like waves of energy that's coming through my physical flesh. And it gives you inquiry and goes, well, what the hell is that? How is that possible? What does that even mean? My eyes are open. I'm not calling in the angels. I'm not sitting in a lotus position. I'm not lighting incense, because that is the true nature of this state. And now you have it. And now you have evidence going, I need more. Every time Deborah speaks, I feel it through my body. I need more. Whatever she's talking about is evidence to me that I need more. And that's that simplicity of contracting and expanding that I refer to. Does that make sense?
As souls, we all need more. Yeah, you're talking about breathing in my vernacular. That's
right. That's the primordial state. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the foundation. Breath of life. That's how we came to be here.
And you just need to validate it as your absolute truth. Because anyone that gives you an absolute truth, you need to about face and run in the other direction. It's not yours. That can only be met with experience. People may resonate with it, but if they're not finding the origins and the answers to it through their own experience, it's contemplation.
We can have different realities. I tell my people all the time, I'm telling you what the angels have told me, and I trust them that it's always 100% true, but it may not be true for you. You've got to decide. You're a sovereign soul. If this resonates, if it's true for you, great, run with it. If not, then you've got to be responsible. We're in a stage right now of our evolution where we're moving into a higher level of spiritual maturity. This Metatron's talking about spiritual maturity all the time now. So it's take the responsibility, get out there, do what you need to do for your soul. And then by extension, you will bless others.
Right. And so, when you master these potentials, what we call sensory perception, that goes under the guise of clairvoyance, mediumship, channeling, healing, all this kind of stuff. You name it, it's all under that same blanket. It's always met with that simplicity. Because
it's connection. It's a two-way dialogue. Praying is you talking. You got to listen. You got to hear. That's the obstacle that people are working to get over. And so in my book, the Path to Hearing Angels and Guides 21-Day Meditation Challenge, that came from Metatron. In this little book, you will learn how to have that two-way dialogue, to hear what they're saying to you. And then suddenly, as you're hearing them and you're noticing the subtleties that show up from your angels every day, your life becomes magical. Magic is everywhere all the time. And that's the delightful state we're trying to help people to get to. Because once we get them there and they start feeling that magic and doing more of it consciously, who knows where they're going to go after that?
Right.
We're going to put love across the planet and get rid of all this war and hatred.
Well, yeah, another misdirection. It goes right back to the scriptures of the Tao Te Ching we call the magical register. The way to walk is not the way. The name that's named is not the name. Tao is both named and nameless. That is your truth. That is your reality. That is your knowing. And it starts from the experience, but it must be validated. So, I love the fact that your wisdom teaching is evidence-based, and that people will feel it foremost, before what could be considered a construct or a determinative definition of what it is. It's necessary. That's where you have to cultivate.
It's all about the feeling. In fact, if you think too much, then your ego is running you around by your nose. It's feeling your way through life, making the best choices, and then your life changes.
That's what we call, if you're thinking, you're not knowing. If you're knowing, you're feeling. Contracting and expanding again. What's expansive, what contracts.
Yeah.
That's your little GPS. That's all you need. And just identifying with that. And that's why alchemy is such a big component to Taoist mastery. Because if you can't master the substance that you're experiencing, which is this material state, how will you ever go from a seeker to a knower? You will be in this continual flux of the symbiosis being danced between yin and yang, never finding your center point because you go from one extreme to another. And
it's also opening up to possibilities. Like I channeled a message from Raziel a while back, and he was warning the people, because of the instability with global economies right now, you would be wise to examine how you have your assets distributed. Take a look, see if you need to make some changes. And by the way, I'm an alchemist. I'm available if you need help. Come to me. So I put that message out there, and I get responses from people. Angels don't do that. Really? Because they told me they're willing to do it if you want to ask, but you got to ask. Angels can do all kinds of things, but you have to ask. And then receive.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the fear peddling is the distraction. More and more, the earth is taking the inverted effects, which come in oppression, depression, possession, which is more evidence-based than ever before. People are more evidence of soullessness, of hopelessness, of helplessness, of despair, which is a catalyst of an inverted effect of too much yang, too much yin, which doesn't give you enough yang. And so you will see it. And a lot of that will present itself as, I'm intuitive, I'm an empath, I'm a psychic, I'm a medium. Those people are plagued with that ominous oppression, even though they go, I have insight, I have this ability to do this, that, something else. Yet you can't switch it off, which then it seeps into your personality. And so quickly evidence-based, you'll notice that they are constantly dealing with depression. And their way to get out of depression is to tell someone else how to experience something. And this is shown very evident-based in psychics and clairvoyance and medium, mitigating mediumship. And I'm like, hang on a second. This is not your absolute. As from the Tao, it's quite simple. You cast the wicked away and you draw that person closer. The only reason you're experiencing this is traits of your personality are bleeding into your belief system, and that is being met with this. You're getting access to a very intuitive state, yet you have never felt into your yang presence. So what happens is these people stay here and here, and then they get trickling effects of a higher universal state, and they've never felt into their body.
It's like they're holding on tightly to disempowerment.
Right.
Well, all you got to do is open your hands, relax, and allow.
Right. But they've never felt into their body. So they're like, I'm intuitive, I'm spiritual, I'm ascended, I'm the soul, I'm this, I'm that. I'm like, that's fantastic. But half of your body, your energy potential has not even been liberated. Allow yourself to liberate that and move the needle back to the yang by feeling into the flesh. This is yang. This is what this is. So allow yourself to own it, to adapt and to liberate what is yours, this anchor. And then all of a sudden they become expanded. They feel the heat of the sun come in, and they just get all perky and joyful and bubbly and happy. And they're like, I can't turn this shit off. I'm like just smiling all the time because you allowed yourself to feel into that. That charge you and I got right now, that's it. Because we resonate with what it is that you and I are speaking of. And that's all it takes. That's it. Yet people don't realize that they have this potential, and they get started with this. I have this feeling when I was younger, I did this and that, and they don't allow themselves to blossom into everything. They're just like, I am the psychic, I am the medium, I am the healer. And it will result in an inverted effect. So everyone that claims to be this will always be exhausted by the end of their timeline of what was considered a normal day. I'm a psychic. I've got to I have to sleep for 15 hours. I'm a channel. I have to sleep. I can only do one client every 2 days because it just takes so much out of me. You have not mastered this substance. This is what we call Jing within Taoism. It's your constitution, what you were born into this realm with. And so from an analogy perspective, we refer to it as a battery pack. You're born into, your flesh is born into this material as the harnessing of your spirit, your soul, your Shen. And so what do you do with that? It's enabling you to experience all these things because it's an anchor to this state. You are all things, but as you start off, you're feeling into that. So you want to measure that. You always start out around, I've never seen anyone over 80% when they come from conception to birth and they're in this realm. And what I like to do is share with them how empowered they are. From 80%, I teach them how to take their battery to 100, from 100 to 1,000, from 1,000 to 9,000. Then they feel into this body going, I am superhuman. I am invincible. Yes, you are. You are all things. Now you don't tarnish or leech from this physical body, which is what healers do. Oh, I look at the energy. I could do this. I could do that. You're just selling your soul. You're selling your substance. And then you're drained at the end of the day. And 36 years ago when I started this, not one person I know is still physically alive. They've moved on because they've expended their physical flesh. They've burnt it out. It's gone. And so
the angels teach to keep filling yourself up with vital force energy. In fact, there's a meditation on my YouTube channel about that. You can get as much as you want. And they say, fill yourself to overflowing. Overflowing.
Amen, my dear friend. And what happens is you saturate the at a subatomic level, this flesh, and you liberate the potential of 0.07 millivolts of energy. That it is 50 trillion cells of this avatar. When you liberate that, then you realize that you can access the primordial mother at will through that alchemy process, and you're never again exhausted. And so that's where I say, hey, 7.5 hours. That was a conversation I had with a dear friend of mine who was 81 years young, a sprite young man by the name of Tom Campbell. And this dude just neither one of us took a pee break, ate any substance, and we were on it. We were flowing, as you would put it, because there is no limit to the potential that we all have access to. And I would refer to that, my dear friend, as your access to Akashic Records. Is when you truly embody that, you're able to access that, all bets are off, in my opinion.
Well, I'm connected all the time. I don't ever turn it off. Who would want to? I was taught when I started doing this work, you have to open and close the records. I kept forgetting to close them. And so one time I'm talking to Metatron and he's like, why would you want to? Oh, right. No more worries. I'm just going to have it open all the time. I like being connected.
Yeah. I mean, that's your default. That's who you are. And so it becomes an autonomous process that you do not have to think about. You are. You're just expressing this resonance that you've mastered, and it will instantly show its effects when you move within this material state. So a classic example is just walking into a room, and people will be magnetized to you or repelled from you. Mm-hmm. And you're like, wow, you can't make this crap up. It's literally happening. That's your resonance. What you're doing is making people go from selfishness to selflessness to the final state of sacrifice. Because as this resonance is being shown to them, the mirroring effect of the universe is for them to become whole. All you're doing is being in their presence, and they're having to decide that they want to become whole. And what that does is their resistance will be met with the mental emotional state. It's you that makes me feel this way. I am so angry because, yeah, you're welcome. Anytime I can help you remember who you are, let me know. Or furthermore, they just gravitate to you.
What I just got is we are the walking embodiment of Creator.
Yes.
And when we can embody that, that's when we change the world. Which
yes.
is what we're working on in my community, sending out just waves, sonic booms of love across the planet, both for Gaia and for the people. And Metatron says when we get enough people doing this, we will then arrive at Earthtopia. We will have manifested it.
I love Metatron. I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
Whatever, is it a he, a she, a them?
Whatever you want it to be.
Well,
to me, Metatron is a male energy. That's what I feel.
Yeah, that's what I feel. It's like,
But
I like
yeah,
it.
the first time he showed up, he was a transformer. And then I got it. It's like, oh, right, double entendre.
Right.
Yeah, he's very funny too.
Yeah, no, I love the potency of his presence. I've been enjoying the experience for the whole time we've been conversating today. And it's just a return to remember who you are. And by bringing it, it will show itself. And that's, you'll know ascendedly through a Taoist path, the rites of passage, we call it, the path of a point of no return is that embodiment. Some people refer to it as cosmic consciousness, Brahman, whatever, universe, God, Buddha, Tao. You will know because it does not require your participation. And so regardless of whether you feel good, bad, indifferent, you're happy, you're sad, you're distorted, you're euphoric, the resonance will precede you, and it will not require any of your identity to return whatever it is to whole. You're just like a beacon that masters that resonance, and your personality can operate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and without effort, because you're just being.
Yeah.
That's who you are being.
Yes. Amen to that, my friend. Wow. Okay, well.
So are you getting the feeling about the magic of the Akashic Records?
Well, of course. I mean, I always do through Lisa I mean, I have many friends that are Akashic readers, and now you included, my dear friend. The potency is always unique and individual to the experiencer, as I am. So your frequency is different to Lisa's, different to many of my other friends, yet it returns to the same place. It's like good to be me, to have friends like yourself to help remind me of the now moment, and then the true potency of that information that can be validated instantaneously through that experience. So your mastery precedes you regardless of what you say, you show me. And that's the most important thing.
Amen.
Yeah.
It's all about the love. We really have to help people shift gears. Let go of the hate. It's not getting you anywhere. Holding you back.
Yeah.
Now, even those people who you might not personally like, they're still a perfect soul. And if you can love the perfect soul, put the personality aside, then you're in that energy of the flow of divine love. And that's where the magic happens.
Yeah. Yeah. It always does. So I'm going to put your interweb and social sphere information into this podcast, and people can have individual sessions with you. They can look and read. You've got several published books, right?
Yeah, I've got 4
published books. They can go and read that. They can go and get a session with you. They can do your training. You have many trainings to offer. Was there anything I missed that might be?
Just the YouTube channel. That's
YouTube
a great source because I put all kinds of free stuff out there, and I do live streams twice a month where I do mini readings for people.
Right. And this is just so amazing. Thank you so much for coming in and sharing this potency.
Thank you for
all my students, 126ers, subscribers, all that kind of stuff. When I say 126, it's not a cult. That's the app that I developed to help people self-realize. That all these people come to the same place to hear conversations with beings like yourself, light beings, resonance. This goes beyond the conceptual construct of the very empty intellect. It's the now moment. So I'm very grateful for you.
Thank you for being a portal for love.
Yes. And thank you for being a portal for love.
That's why we're here.
Yeah. So I want to thank you. I want to thank the universe for bringing you into my life. I want to thank the audience for sharing their time with us today. I am your humble servant and Sifu, Taoist Master San Qing, and I'll see you in the next one, guys.